Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make cinnamon roll biscuits. So this recipe kind of came out of I just wanted to make something sweet to eat but had nothing in the house. I just came up with something using a couple of ideas that I had to pull them together to make the cinnamon roll biscuits. So what we're starting out here with is 2 cups of all-purpose flour. To this we're adding 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of baking soda, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of sugar. Now once we get all of this into our bowl, we want to mix this up just to actually make sure all of this gets distributed. So if you have a fork, whisk, whatever, just run it through the bowl and just make sure everything gets broken up and distributed through the flour. That way it's just going to be easier on us later and we don't have something where it's too much of one thing in one place. To this we're adding 1/4 of a cup of shortening, and then 1 stick of butter which has been cut up in 2 tablespoons. Basically with this, what we're going to do is work this through the flour. Now a lot of people would say, oh, you could have just frozen that or used a grater or whatever. Well, this is just as easy. So it just works for me. So I just take everything, put it in there, and the shortening and the butter gets broken up, and we're just trying to break it into small pieces as we go and mix through the whole thing. So that means as you're doing this, just turn it through the bowl a few times, pull the sides in, make sure you don't have any large lumps in it. And we just want to get this broken up before we add milk to the mix, just to make sure that everything is completely ready. Now, somewhere around this time, if you want to preheat your oven to 425 degrees, you can do that, because once we get these completely made, they're going to go in there for about 25 minutes. So, once this is completely done here, we are going to bring in 1 cup of milk. Now, this is regular milk. You don't need buttermilk or anything. However, when you go to mix this up, if it seems a little dry, you can add a little bit more milk to this to actually make it stick together. The thing is, it's easier to add a little more now than put too much in the beginning and you have a mess then. So just go ahead and mix the milk through until it's all pulling together, and go around the sides and the bottom, and you're going to pull this in, and eventually it's going to start to stick together, and then you know that you've actually got it to the point where it's usable. So keep working it until it's all pulled in, and then we're going to move in with a baking pan with some foil on it. We're going to get this ready in advance before we start doing anything else, and use some non-stick cooking spray and get it ready. But like I said before, preheat your oven to 425 degrees. These will be in there for at least 25 minutes. So if you have a cutting board or something like that, pull it out. We're going to put some flour on the surface of it so we can work on this. And if you have a rolling pin, we're going to put some flour on that too so it doesn't stick. And once we get this all on here, we're going to turn our dough out onto the surface and get ready to work this to use it to the way we want. So once you get all of that out on there, one thing you need to make sure of before you start using this is you put a little flour on your hands and you put a little flour on top of what you're going to be working with, or else there's a chance it might stick. So go ahead and just work that. Now press it out with your hand, all of the dough you just put on there. What we're trying to do is get this kind of like in a rectangle or a large shape that we can actually cut the rolls for the cinnamon roll biscuits. So we're going to use our rolling pin, roll it back and forth a few times, fold it over. We're just trying to put some layers in this. So just do it a few times back and forth. I mean, 3-4 times probably would do it. But eventually we're going to try and start making a shape that we can actually cut to make these cinnamon roll biscuits. Now, the best thing about it, when you get this rolled into the shape that you want, there's an easy thing in your house you can do with this to make it so easy, and that is having a pizza cutter. Because all you need to do when you're going to cut those things is use that. So make sure you have that on hand. But before we're ready for this, we're going to smear butter over top of the dough. We're going to use this to hold on the ingredients that are going on the inside of this. So go ahead and take your butter. This could be up to, I don't know, 1/2 cup. But what we want to do is we want to actually soften it before we start smearing it on here. Just make sure that it's spreadable. And you may not need the whole amount. I mean, it's depending on how big you rolled out what you're working with your dough is how much butter you're going to need. But you want to smear onto the top of this a really good even coating. So get that ready before we add anything else to this. And once you get a really good coating across the top, and I mean even, we don't want any spaces that are open without it, we're going to bring in some cinnamon sugar to put on top of this. And we're adding about 1/4 cup, and we're just going to go all over the top of this to go back and forth just to make sure it's completely coated wherever there's butter. And then after we finish with that, we're going to come in with about 1/3 cup of brown sugar, which we're going to put on top. Now, once we get this all on top of there, we're going to press the brown sugar and the cinnamon sugar into the butter. So you want to push it in a little bit to make sure that it actually mixes with and stays in place, so when we go to cut this, you're in good shape. So go ahead and just use as much of this as you can to go over the whole top of this, because we don't want any parts of this not to have it in there. And then once we get this completely coated, we're going to bring that pizza cutter over and start cutting it. And we're going to do this like an inch or so, or a little thicker line of it. And then you're just going to roll it up until you get to the end and pinch the end closed. And that way you have your cinnamon roll biscuit there. And we're going to do this as many times as we can with what we have available here. But the good thing about this is as you're rolling it, the stuff will stay inside if you pressed it into the butter really well. So just roll this up, take it around, pinch the end of it, and then you're good, as long as you make sure you pinch that really well and it doesn't unravel on you. And we're just going to do this for each one of these. And we're going to keep doing this until we get our pan filled up with them. Once again, 425 degrees on your oven. And we're going to need that for at least 25 minutes for these to bake up really well. You might want to check it a little earlier than that, because sometimes people's ovens get a little hotter than others. So it's one of those things, depending on your oven, how hot it gets. So once we get all of these done and they're ready to go in the oven, we're going to work on our icing next. And the best thing about the icing is you don't have to do anything really to make it, because we're going to use a store-bought thing and just work from there. But as you can see with this, you get quite a few of these out of this one mix. And that's a really wonderful thing, because, you know, this is good if you have several people who you're trying to like feed a snack to. This is wonderful. And the best thing about it is this doesn't take a whole long to do. So see, mine are in the pan. They're getting ready to go into the oven. Make sure there's a little room between them in case they spread out. You don't want them sticking to each other. And then, like I said, they're going to be in there for like 25 minutes. But in the meantime, I have some cream cheese icing. And I'm going to scoop out probably about a third of a cup to whatever of this. It just depends on, you know, how much you want to coat these. Stick it in the microwave for just a few seconds until it gets kind of runny and moist. And that way it can be poured. And just work your way over top of the cinnamon roll biscuits with it. Now, don't put this on top of your cinnamon roll biscuits if they're hot out of the oven, because it will soak them right up. But let them cool for like 15 minutes or something before you do it. Then come back and put your icing on top of it and just work your way around until you use up all the icing that you took out. And it's going to set up, and these are going to be so wonderful because it's such a great taste for something that's so easy to make at home. There's really not that much effort goes into this, but this is something that's really a crowd pleaser, and your family probably would love it if you can make these like on a Sunday morning or something like that, or sometime when you're actually at home and somebody just wants a good snack. So it's just something wonderful to have. But the best thing about it is, you know, once you get this icing on top, you're ready to eat. And they have the best flavor to them, just because I use cream cheese. You could use other icing if you want, but I think this just kind of gives it that edge, that taste that you really want to have. And when mine were done, they looked like this. And I tell you, they did not last long in my house because everybody ate these up. And I think you just might like it. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out the Southern Mountain Kitchen website, where you can get a free recipe, check out the cookbooks available from the Southern Mountain Kitchen, and if you'd like to, you could order a cookbook at a discounted price, cheaper than Amazon, with shipping that is also cheaper than Amazon. So if you get a chance, check it out, and I hope you have a great day.